Look at these faces. They were not just people. They were crew members, passengers, loved ones. Each of them boarded a plane expecting to land safely, but instead, their flights became lessons written in tragedy. Their stories, though heartbreaking, have shaped the way we fly today. Aviation safety doesn't evolve through prevention. It evolves through reaction. It takes disasters to reveal hidden vulnerabilities, like faulty systems or overlooked pilot errors. It takes loss to prove that improvements in communication and security are necessary. And it takes financial consequences for airlines and manufacturers to finally invest in life-saving changes. Just like in the College Board stimulus, where malls are abandoned to make way for modern needs, old, unsafe safety measures are left in the past to change for the better. And that can be seen in this graph, when in 50 years, the number of fatal accidents per million flights decreased from 6 to less than 1. But not because we predicted problems, it's because we learned and adapted. My name's Gabe Fair, and my research question is, in what ways have major air disasters in the past 50 years been essential in improving modern aviation safety? And my argument to this research question is, aviation safety best evolves through reactive measures, not by being proactive. After a crash, investigators search to find the root cause of what happened, and in many cases, these investigations can reveal hidden vulnerabilities that couldn't be seen if not for the crash. The Boeing 737 MAX disasters are a perfect example of this. Boeing had just introduced a new feature called the MCAS system, which if the angle of attack sensor detected an angle too steep between the nose direction and movement, it would forcibly pitch the plane downwards, overriding the pilot's control. However, due to faulty angle of attack sensors, the MCAS system became the primary cause of an Ethiopian and a Lion Air crash. According to the Federal Aviation Administration, the Boeing 737 MAX models were then grounded worldwide, and Boeing was forced to redesign the system. These crucial changes came only after tragedy, but ever since, there hasn't been a single MCAS-related crash, which shows that humans are learning from these investigations, in all making aviation safer today. Not only mechanical failures are exposed to investigations, overlooked human errors can also be exposed. For example, in 2015, a Germanwings flight from Spain to Germany ended in disaster when the co-pilot, Andreas Lubitz, locked the captain out of the cockpit and deliberately crashed into the French Alps. Lubitz had been suffering from psychosis, yet pilot mental health wasn't considered a major risk. After the crash, the French Office of Investigation implemented the 2-person per cockpit rule, which requires 2 crew members in the cockpit at all times. They also implemented the regular mental health checkups for pilots. All in all, these investigations found vulnerabilities that couldn't be seen if not for the crash, which allowed for changes in regulations and safety measures. Acting proactively can create problems that were there in the first place, so that's why it's always important to investigate, learn, and adapt. There have been many important crashes in history, and all of them have come with major improvements. One of the important crashes is the Tenerife airport disaster in 1977, when a KLM and a Pan Am flight crashed on the runway at Tenerife due to low visibility and poor communication. The FAA reports that terms like takeoff and okay were used, which are very vague terms in aviation. Therefore, the FAA released a manual to all pilots learning how to communicate properly. And some of the things that are mentioned are all pilots must know fluent English, the phonetic alphabet, as well as the order of contact with air traffic control. These changes prove that humans are learning from their past mistakes, which show that these vital crashes back in the day, for example this one in 1977, are not forgotten. They actually have a significant impact in today's aviation safety. Another crash is the September 11 attacks, where 19 terrorists hijacked and crashed 4 planes all across America, which led to thousands of deaths, not only from people in the planes, but also from people in the buildings. The FAA then implemented 2 important changes, the first of which is the locking of cockpit doors, where only authorized personnel with a key code can input it into the keypad to get into the cockpit, which limited passenger hijackings to 0. However, I do say passenger hijackings, because there's always a limitation. The limitation of the person inside the cockpit, the pilot. Just like the Germanwings flight, where the co-pilot locked the captain out of the cockpit, the same can happen here, and pilots can hijack these planes. And yes, there are ways we can combat that, like the 2-person per cockpit rule and the regular mental health checkups, like I mentioned earlier. But all in all, so the September 11 attacks prove once again that historical crashes always come with improvements, making aviation safer today. The final reason why airlines should react to crashes instead of being proactive is due to the high cost of development. The Transportation Security Administration, or TSA for short, is the second change from 9/11 and is essential, but it is very, very expensive. Since 2022, the budget for the TSA has increased from $9 billion to $11.8 billion, and this is all due to new terminals, new staffing, and new software as well, all to have better safety. And Also, the FAA imposes a passenger fee, which can be up to $11 per round trip, which may not seem like a lot, but when you add up all the passengers per day, per year, all across America, that is a very hefty expense for the TSA. Which makes us come to the conclusion that while security is crucial, upgrades are costly, and it's impractical for airlines and manufacturers to constantly keep upgrading planes and security and everything like that. So it's often better to let a crash happen than analyze and improve. Boeing is another example of this. After the 737 MAX crashes, Boeing lost over $32 billion. This is all from lawsuits, delays in production, as well as redesign from the aircraft. And this is all reactive measures. Now imagine if Boeing had acted proactively and spent possibly billions of dollars on maybe even unnecessary changes. The plane was so expensive that airlines would reject the plane regardless, and Boeing would lose the money anyways. And this makes us come to a truth, where airlines and manufacturers are a business, and they only want to invest when it's absolutely necessary. So although being proactive does sound ideal, it's often risky, costly, and even unnecessary until tragedy forces change. Look at these faces again. Their stories didn't end in vain. They became the reason to why aviation is as safe as it is today. So the next time you're debating on going on holiday on a plane or staying home out of fear, get on that plane. Because the lives of these people is the reason to why flying is safer than ever. The lives of these people is the reason to why every crash has led to strong regulations, better technology, and safer skies. But most importantly, the lives of these people is the reason to why aviation keeps improving, because tragedy forces change. Aviation doesn't evolve by playing it safe. It evolves by learning from the past. And yes, there's an uncomfortable truth. The plane you board today could one day change aviation for the future in the better. But don't just think about yourself. Think about the future, because history shows that aviation will always adapt, react, and improve. And it's because of them. Because of them, you will land safely. So get on that plane. Thank you.
Okay, we got two questions for you. First up, what evidence did you gather that you did not use, and why didn't you use it?
So an evidence that I gathered was with the Boeing 737 MAX crashes, where there was a whistleblower from Boeing who had released a lot of information, and he ended up being murdered. And I kind of had that research, but I didn't really know how to implement it because it didn't really fit with the flow of my presentation. This was more about the general crashes, not really what happened with Boeing in specific.
All right, and if you had more time, what additional research would you conducted on this topic?
If I had more time, I think I would just maybe see more like which crash has had a bigger impact on modern aviation rather than a general impact, and maybe have that as a more, conclusion at the end.